Hi there, and welcome to One Body, One Life, proudly sponsored by Jamae's Fine Foods. I'm Vicki Nguyen, and I'm on a personal mission to live to 120, and I would absolutely love to take you on this journey with me. This fortnightly show is focused on longevity and understanding how we can all live longer and stronger through diet, exercise, lifestyle, nutrition, and so on. Each episode, we will uncover tips and tricks to living your healthiest and happiest life for as long as physically possible. I'll be chatting to the experts as well as people who have defied the odds and explore various treatments and modalities to help us all reach optimal wellness. So today I talked to Dr. Thomas Lodi, who is the founder of Oasis International, where he works with his team of experts to bring a kinder, more gentler, integrative approach to cancer care. Dr. Lodi is licensed as both an allopathic medical doctor, also known as an MD, and an integrative and homeopathic medical doctor. Dr. Lodi graduated from the University of Hawaii School of Medicine in 1985 and since then has dedicated his entire life to studying cancer and developing effective treatment protocols. Having worked as an internal medicine specialist, an urgent care physician, and as an intensivist in various hospitals, he's been able to narrow his scope of practice to integrative oncology, a holistic form of cancer care that integrates the best of conventional medicine with alternative therapies and lifestyle interventions. With this in-depth understanding of the biology of cancer and 35 years of medical experience, he's now laying the foundations to an integrative cancer care revolution. How refreshing to hear all this. So welcome to the show, Dr. Lodi.
Thank you very much.
It's very exciting, the work that you're doing. I mean, this podcast, One Body, One Life, is all about educating people on what they can do to live a longer, stronger, happier, healthier life. And when we came across you, we just were so intrigued by your work. So thank you for the time today. So firstly, I'd love to hear a little bit about you. I mean, obviously cancer is such a rife. I mean, you know, it's like every single person we meet these days has either been touched by it themselves or family or friends or whatever. I'd love to hear more about you and your backstory and how this all started for you, especially with Oasis International.
Sure. Before I went to medical school, since I was 14 years old, I was reading Herbert M. Shelton, who I don't know if people know about him, but if they don't, they should find out. He is probably, I don't know, I consider him my master when it comes to nutrition and lifestyle. He died a few years ago, but anyway, he wrote many, many books, very prolific. And I was reading that about healing and health and what to eat, what is human food and all that sort of thing way back when. So I never had any intention of being a doctor. It would be the last thing I would ever want to be. So actually, I dropped out of UCLA when I was like 19 years old and moved to India, spent a couple years there in ashrams, and then realized I wasn't ready for that this lifetime. So came back to the U.S. and went to finish college, went to graduate school in psychology and studied and started practicing as a psychologist for about 3 years. And they kept saying that there was a hole in my knowledge. I didn't understand the body. I didn't understand the potential effects that the body could have on the mind. And I didn't understand the effects that medications could have on the mind. So I realized the big gap. So I needed to fill that gap. So I went to medical school. So I didn't go to medical school to be a doctor, but I went to medical school to round out my perspective and have a full database so I could.
That's awesome.
Help people.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I kind of went backwards. I went spirit, mind, body, and So like you said, I went to the University of Hawaii, and then I went to New York to do my residency training at Columbia, and did internal medicine and like that. And wound up working as a urgent care and critical care physician in critical care units because I realized even back then that we had no answers for chronic conditions. We were good at acute situations, broken leg,
yes,
baby coming out the wrong way, things like that. We're good at that, but arthritis, gastritis, depression, cancer, hypertension, diabetes, we have no clue.
Yes.
We have no clue. So So then I did that for about 10 years, and I stopped practicing that and went around the world again to study with people who I considered mentors in different countries, and finally settled down in New York again back in 2000 or 99 or something, and then started what I do now, which is integrative oncology. That's it. In 2004, I moved to 2005. I moved to Arizona and founded an Oasis of Healing, which is still around. It's been there 18 years now. So it's still around. And then I came to Phuket, Thailand. Well, I came to Thailand 10 years ago, and I was in Chiang Mai, then Bangkok, and now Phuket for the last 3 or 4 years. And that's it.
Amazing. That's awesome. So Oasis International is based in Thailand, is that correct?
It was going to be based in Thailand. We were all ready to go, and then the great hoax came upon us.
Okay.
And then it just kind of stopped.
Okay.
Stopped. Yeah. So we never had a chance to open because there was all international travel was cut off here, and people couldn't come in. So it never got off. It was never. I mean, we were like ready to launch. It's crazy. So
yeah.
didn't do it.
So, and what's your plan now with that?
Well, they're loosening up they're loosening up the restrictions and all that right now for phase 1 of the Great Hoax. But the second part is coming. So it's going to be much worse, and there's going to be more restrictions, and there's going to be more problems, and World War III is upon us. So I just don't think it makes sense for me to do that. So what I'm doing now is there's 2 clinics that I did found.
Yes.
And I set up and I trained the doctors, and they're in Bangkok. And so when people come to see me, we go to one of those, and I oversee their care. And then if they're in the U.S. or they're in North America or Europe, and they think it's closer for them to go to the U.S., my clinic in Arizona is still there.
That's
a long
fantastic.
time now.
That is brilliant. So how do you find that your type of treatments are accepted by the mainstream medical fraternity?
That's a very interesting question, because when I first started, I was considered a major quack.
Yes, bit of a maverick.
I made quack lists, and which I consider a credential. So
absolutely.
Okay. So, but the things I was talking about are now mainstream.
Yes.
They're now all that quackery is now no longer quackery. So Sloan Kettering has an integrative oncology. MD Anderson has an integrative. They all have integrative oncology. Universities, medical schools, but most of it is just aware that it brings in big dollars, big pounds, big euros. So because of that, they're using the name, but they're not really integrative the way you would find in a non-conventional setting.
Yes.
So, but unfortunately, even with the integrative doctors or alternative holistic doctors that I know, most of them, if not all of them, don't get it. They're still using the allopathic model.
Yes.
And that model, you've got a disease, and we have to get rid of it.
Yes.
And that's a myth.
Correct.
That's a myth.
Yeah.
No third-party entity that got into you that you need to get a magic potion to get rid of. Now, whether that magic potion is a pharmaceutical drug that you would get from the conventional doctor, or a whole set of botanicals,
yes,
there's not a thing that's going to fix you.
Yeah.
Because only the body.
That's right.
You can't produce healing. Healing occurs from the body. You go to the surgeon with a big gash on your arm. All they can do is put the edges back together, sew it back together. But you have to heal. If you don't heal it, it'll abscess and open up, and it won't heal. So there's nothing that we can do externally to do it. It's a journey. So and it's mind, body, and spirit. If the mind and spirit are not on board, it doesn't matter what you do to the body, because the body, I consider the tumors and like fruit on the tree.
Yes.
You got a poison apple tree. You can pick all the apples off, but you're going to have a new harvest next fall. So you can't. It's not the fruit on the tree.
I love that. That's amazing. But yeah, just back on that, like acceptance from the mainstream medical fraternity, because I know in Australia, I know a lot of people. We ran the Lotus Healing Centre in Melbourne for a long time. It's a natural medicine business, and we had a lot of people coming through with different ailments and cancers and tumours and so forth. And I guess a lot of people who came in who chose the natural route and wanted to go down that path without using chemotherapy were rejected and not allowed to. Basically, they were denied treatment if they refused chemotherapy. So how do you go with doing what you're doing? And is it okay in Thailand? Is it okay in the US to deny perhaps chemo? Or is that something that they have to have in conjunction with the integrative therapies?
Well, there's the key word, integrative. Integrative means you're going to use whatever modalities from all healing disciplines
Yes.
that are necessary to restore health. So remember something too. We're in a different paradigm. So we're not going to get rid of cancer.
Right.
We're going to restore health.
Yes.
So, but part of that is, there's kind of three aspects to it. But the second part is how do we eliminate, shrink, get rid of these tumors that are there without causing harm? And that's what all of the metabolic therapies that we do are. That from vitamin C to quercetin to curcumin, artesunate, all those things, B17. But there are times when we have to use low dose chemo. Now the difference and that's when you have a tumor that's potentially impacting a vital function like breathing or bowel movements, eating. You can't wait.
Yes,
you've got to deal with it now, or it's in the brain, and if it grows any more in the brain, the person will die. So
yes,
there are situations where you have to, or it's excruciatingly painful, and you can't manage the pain. There are situations where, and so what the research shows, the conventional oncology for about the last 10 years has done a lot of research, and they've changed the name from low dose chemo because they don't like that because everybody knows it and it's not special and doctors need to feel special. So they now call it metronomic chemotherapy.
Okay.
They look that up like a metronome, right?
Yep.
And anyway, so metronomic has a lot of data, and what it is low dose in more frequent intervals. And what they find is that it actually can stimulate the immune system. It actually, its main target is the blood vessels, which, as you know, a tumor can't grow 1 millimeter without new blood vessels. So if you're blocking that, and that's what they're finding low dose chemo can do. However, it's still toxic. So we use it only for a short time in specific intervals until we've achieved, the short-term goal with that. But the rest of all the therapy. So no, and we don't require anyone do anything. We give them our plan and our recommendation. And I need to know, I find out when I'm meeting with the family and the person, if they're all on board. If the spouse is against it, then it's not going to work. If the daughter or the mother is against it, it's not going to work. It won't work because we know that the mind directly affects the immune system.
Absolutely.
In fact, you could consider the mind the shadow of the immune system. Wherever the mind goes, the immune system follows. Angry, fearful, sad, regretful, all those things will directly suppress natural killer cell function, T cell function, gamma interferon, all sorts of things like that. Whereas the opposite emotions and feelings will do the opposite effect on the immune system. So that's why it's so important to look at it holistically. But what I see, even other alternative docs, is that most of them focus on their IVs and their interventions. You go in and they give some vague counseling on eating, or they tell people to eat things that I've learned are not healthy. So
yes,
I mean,
yeah.
But then you go to a place like in Florida, there's a place called Hippocrates where they teach you how to eat and how to prepare foods and all that stuff. But they don't have the other side, the medical interventions, and they don't know how to stimulate the immune system and all those sorts of things. So the only place where it's all done are the centers I've opened. And the reason I came here with the Thailand was to open up all over the world so that we could share this method.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds amazing. It's so refreshing to listen to you speak because it's kind of, like you said before, like a lot of doctors are under the guise of integrative, oncologists, but they don't do half or not even a third of what you're talking about. It's like, it's just so refreshing. And I hope that you can open up in Thailand because it's obviously a lot more accessible to us here in Australia. So, right. Getting back to the pillars, so talk to us about the 3 pillars that you base, or the foundations that you work off.
Yeah, I referred to that a moment ago, and that's there's 3 pillars. Okay, first of all, realize we are not a treatment facility. In a treatment facility, you go in, and by definition, you sit back and passively receive treatment, and it's going to fix you. Again, that's the paradigm of disease. It's the germ theory, the disease theory, and all that, which is a false theory. It's mythology. So instead of you being fixed by some brilliant doctor, it's a healing center. And instead of getting rid of cancer, we're going to restore health. And I want to give I think a great example. I had a man with prostate cancer. This is way back, early 2000s in Sedona, Arizona. And he came to me on the 6th week of our program, and with tears of joy in his eyes, he was saying, "You didn't tell me my arthritis would get better. You didn't tell me my diabetes would get better."
Wow.
He was blown away. And what I was able to explain to him then is that now you can understand that these conditions that you just mentioned are not separate and distinct diseases.
Yes.
What they are, different manifestations of the same problem, which is toxicity, toxemia.
Yes.
Right. So you clear up the toxemia and all those things go away. So it's a healing center. But because the mind is so critical in this whole journey, you've got to learn how to control it. And that's a big part of it. We have a British psychologist who went and lived with the Dalai Lama and became a monk for 35 years. And then he quit the monkhood, is now married with children, but the Dalai Lama is still his guru and tells him that his job in life is to help people with cancer. So he works on our team to help with the mind.
Okay.
And then we work with the body, kinesiology. We make sure that people are moving all day long, not freaking out in the gym for 1 hour. Yes. I mean, freaking out in the gym for 1 hour is as unnatural as sitting at a desk for 4 hours.
Yes.
Okay. Neither of them are natural. Natural would be moving and bending and twisting all day long, and that would be a natural life. So remember, all of our conditions, the reason our body has to go through these adaptations that we call disease, is because biological needs are not being met.
Right.
And so the healing journey is to restore the ability to meet all the biological, psychological, and spiritual needs of a person. And then guess what happens? The condition that they in which they live is called health.
Amazing.
So the three pillars, therefore, are: one is we help the person change their biochemistry through fasting, juicing, cleansing, colon hydrotherapy, lymphatic therapy, balancing hormones, meditation. All those things will help modify the internal biochemistry so it no longer needs to adapt and produce cancer. Cancer is an adaptive response.
Yeah. So it's like a reset.
Exactly. And it no longer needs to do that particular adaptive dance called cancer or high blood pressure, whatever.
Yes.
So the second aspect of it, and these are not done in sequence, it's all simultaneous, are what we call metabolic therapies, or where we target and eliminate the cancer without causing harm. And that's with our intravenous botanicals and IPT when necessary, insulin potentiated chemo. But it's our intravenous artesunate, intravenous B17, quercetin, curcumin, vitamin C, all those things. And then the third aspect, the third pillar, is waking up and enhancing the immune system, because the cancer cells are extremely clever, and they produce chemicals that actually inactivate the tumor. And what they call the tumor microenvironment, once like a macrophage or a T cell or a natural killer cell shows up in that environment, the biochemical milieu, the biochemical soup, changes the macrophage, and it now becomes what's called a tumor-associated macrophage, a TAM, and it now works to help the tumor proliferate. The same with the neutrophils become tumor-associated neutrophils. So, in other words, it's kind of like it's if you were to turn, if somebody were to turn a CIA agent, he's let's say he's a CIA agent in undercover in China. They find out and they convince him to become a Chinese agent.
Yes.
And so
Wow.
Yeah. So they kind of get turned. So anyway, that's the condition that people are in, and that's usually the reason that no matter what they do, they can't heal. So we've got to take care of the immune system.
Yes.
We've got to wake. Those are the three pillars.
That's amazing. And so do you find that, obviously, is it really important at the stage that the cancer is at for you to get the best results with these three pillars?
No. Well, there's stages where it just doesn't work. Like if someone can't eat and their belly is full of fluid, it's called ascites, their liver's got metastasis all over it. It's already too far.
Yes.
You can't. anything less than that. So you can still have stage 4 as long as there hasn't been critical organ damage.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I ask, I lost my best friend to cancer a few years ago, and she was only 37, and she had stomach cancer, but it had metastasized, and she had it all in the interstitial fluid and the liver. Like, it just basically went everywhere. And so it was stage 4 by the time she was diagnosed. And she did try doing different things, like with the vitamin C and the B17 IV drips and, all sorts of things. But it seemed like it kind of just slowed down. She passed away, I think, after about 5 or 6 months, but I think they only gave her like 3 months at the time, so she did last a little longer. But yeah, I guess my question was born out of, is it too late at that stage? And I guess
I'm going to show you how powerful and how important the mind is. I had a woman who had just come from, she had breast cancer that had metastasized all over her body, throughout her lungs. She had to be on oxygen, and they brought her into my clinic on a gurney. She was lying down and with oxygen, and she had just come from her doctor, who told her she had 3 weeks to live.
Wow.
So she had seen my videos. So when I walked up to her to say hello, she grabbed my arm and she said, "Thank God, now I know I'm going to make it."
Oh, wow.
And 6 weeks later, she was jogging to the clinic, and her husband would drive behind her, make sure she was okay. And 8 years later, I got a postcard from Paris.
Wow.
So is it too late? If the person can get to us,
yes,
has that attitude. Now, I want to. There's a very important distinction there. She said, "I know."
Yes.
She didn't say "I believe."
Yes.
Remember, the word "believe" also implies doubt.
Yeah.
When you say "believe you," it means I also doubt you.
Yes. Yes.
Right? But knowing now. So, for example, you don't believe.
Yeah.
You believe in. It turns out, if you really take it down and you try to define these words, you can only believe in something that's not true.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Like Santa Claus and vaccines and stuff like that. Or you can, if it's something that is true, like let's say you grew up in the desert, and someone wouldn't say, "Do you believe in oceans?" Yeah. Do you know about oceans?
Yes. Yes.
So if it's true, you either know it or you don't.
Yeah.
And if it's not true, you believe it or not. And so she said, "I know I'm going to make it." And now, what's a single word for when you know something's going to happen before it happens? It's called faith.
Yes.
Yeah, and not in the religious sense, but indeed the spiritual sense.
Yeah.
Faith that I know I'm going to heal. So you cut your finger while peeling an apple. Don't peel apples, by the way. Eat the skin.
Yeah.
Let's say you're peeling an apple and you cut your finger. You don't believe it's going to heal. You know it's going to heal. You rinse it off, put a Band-Aid on, and it heals.
Yes.
And that's it. So when you know this cancer inside of you is going to be gone, you don't even have to come to the clinic.
Yeah, right.
It's gone.
So every cell in her body, her entire being believed that she was going to make this, and she knew she was going to survive. So that it's the language, isn't it? It's like on the cellular level as well.
Right. It's knowing, because remember, language is conveying information. Yeah. And the information is in her being.
Yes.
She knew it. She knew it. And for the people that have any Christian background, it's the woman who touched Jesus's cape as he was walking.
Okay.
She knew if she touched his cape, she would heal.
Yes.
And he turned to her and he said, "It is your faith that healed you."
Yeah.
Not me.
Right. There you go. Same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah. She knew it.
She knew it. How interesting. So tell us about, my personal mission, I don't know if you know this, is to live to 120. And so this mission to uncover as much information as possible through this podcast. And I've got a health food brand as well. And I do lots of different things to help myself live longer and stronger. But I guess my biggest fear in this world, and particularly now, is like electromagnetic radiation and brain tumors and all those type of things that we're so reliant on now, like using mobile phones so often. But what are the most common cancers that you're seeing now?
Well, it's pretty much the most common are breast in women and lung. Yeah. Lung, breast, prostate, colon, lymphomas are probably the main ones. But secondary you have gastric cancer. But what's really going back to your point about the EMF is when I first started. We would get an inquiry for brain cancer maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. Now I get several calls a week.
Wow.
This is from cell phones. This is from EMF exposure.
Exactly.
So that's that's what we're seeing. But also now, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but because of those injections that people have been volunteering for,
yes,
there is over a 600% increase in cancer diagnoses. 2021,
wow.
2021, and now 2022. It's just skyrocketing.
No surprises there.
We're going
to see more, right?
More and more and more. And then you combine that. And then once 5G is turned on in July,
I know.
Everybody that has been injected is going to have problems.
Yes.
It's all set up. It's all set up. And so, I mean,
I know. It's a big fear of mine, and I've been fighting. Our telco has been trying to build a Telstra tower, 5G tower at the back of my house, about 150 meters, and I fought it once and won against the telco, but they're trying again to put the permit in to erect this 40 meter high tower, and it's sickening. It's like, where do we go? How can we escape this? It's like virtually impossible to escape this radiation. That's like an assault on our bodies without, it's unconsented assault.
Well, exactly, and I'm not sure if you're aware of. About a year ago, in the United States, what's the governing or the regulatory agency called
APANSA,
telecommunications or whatever it is, gave permission to Elon Musk to put up 20,000 satellites.
Yes, I knew that.
Which I think he's finished by now. They're littering our skies. One of the big problem is there's so many, plus there were already hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
The concern is that it's going to block the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance is a resonance. It's a resonance between the atmosphere from the atmosphere and the Earth, and I forget. I think it's like 7.8.
Yes.
And it is the resonance in which biology occurs. So if that gets blocked or changed, biological life will either mutate or not be able to exist.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I learned about the Schumann resonance during lockdown. Obviously, we all had so much time to research and do more. And I know there was one massive meditation that took place globally. And on that day, the Schumann resonance, I think, increased because of that, the energy. So that was really interesting to see. But it is a scary world we're currently living in. Tell us about the age groups in terms of, I know you think, obviously it's going to increase now that, like you're saying, all these people have volunteered for these vaccinations. And, especially young children as well, they're pushing upon in Australia, and that really concerns me as well. But are you seeing with the cancers as well, are you seeing younger children experience these type of cancers?
Yeah, well, we're seeing, even in China, children that have gotten the shot are now getting leukemias quickly.
Yeah.
We're going to see everyone. The children, the big thing with these injections, which we can't call vaccines. By the way, listen, when we talk about words and the power of words, realize that one of the most powerful things that they employ very carefully and very wisely is linguistic manipulation.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a pandemic, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, these are not vaccines.
Correct.
Okay. Number three, don't call it a vax.
Yeah.
Okay, or a vaccine. And don't call it a jab. A jab is an innocuous. I'm walking through the forest and a twig jabs my arm. Okay, that's a jab.
Yep.
These are not jabs.
Yeah.
These are not. But they inserted that and immediately became. Everyone's used it. I won't use it. I won't talk to people if they use it. I won't respond to it. It's as if I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I'm putting them on. It's behavioral therapy. I'm putting them on extinction. I won't. You don't engage. Don't use their words, because then it's like a video game. If you're in a video game, there's no room for inductive thinking. There's no room for creative thinking or imagination. You have to follow some rule that they established to win the game. So if you're in there, don't be in their video game.
Yeah.
So don't use their words.
Well, what do you say? Shot.
You say these injections, and if someone says what injections, you said, the experimental gene therapy that suppresses the immune system and introduces an interface with artificial intelligence into your body. So those are the three that are in this injection. But but the one thing it doesn't do, it doesn't prevent you from getting some sort of disease that they claim.
Exactly.
I mean, that would by definition be a vaccine.
That's right.
But it's it's like, don't use their word, because then you're in their game and you cannot work in their game.
Yeah.
So you immediately, when you're going to talk to someone, you say, look, if we're going to have a discussion, yes, we both speak English, so that's a big start.
Yes.
Now let's make sure that we have the same definition of words.
Amazing. Love it. I love it.
So when people say, you don't eat meat, I go, I love meat. Now let's say, what is meat? Meat means in English, actually, essence, right? What is the meat of the subject? I always eat the meat of the coconut.
Yes.
Okay. So if you understand that to be meat, then you will understand that the decayed muscles of a deceased animal is certainly not its essence.
Yes.
And therefore we can't call it meat.
Yes.
We have to call it what it is.
Yes.
Call it what it is. It's corpse. It's a corpse.
Yes.
Corpse flesh. And then if you call it what it is, then we can have a discussion. So do I like corpse? I mean, how do I like to eat my corpse? I don't. So right. Can you imagine that a wife saying to her husband, "Oh, hi, honey. Would you like some chicken embryos and pig corpse for breakfast?" They go, "No." He goes, "Would you like bacon and eggs?" "Sure." Right. So you've got to be careful.
Yes.
And bacon. What is bacon? Have you ever seen bacon walking around?
No.
What do they look like?
That's
are there bacons?
Yeah. I get it. So just back to the question. So obviously, I mean, for over 20 years, you've been raising awareness around the fact that cancer is primarily a lifestyle-based metabolic condition rather than genetic disease. And you mentioned that it's possible for all of us to change our body's biochemistry to create an environment where cancer cells cannot grow or spread. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. Well, in a little brief summary of what cancer is that the fundamental activity that all life must do, whether it's a single cell or a multi-cell organism, and whether it's plant, bacteria, it doesn't matter what it is. The fundamental thing it must do is extract something from its environment and convert it into energy. So once it has the energy, then it can maintain its shape and its function, and it can have it do its activities. So in our cells, we need negative 56 kilojoules per mole of energy. All of our cells need that. Now, over half of it is used just to maintain sodium, potassium pumps, and all these things that maintain the shape of the cell. And then the rest of the energy is used for the cell to perform its function. So if it's a liver cell, it does liver things. If it's a heart cell, it does heart things. So anyway, energy is number one. And without the energy, there's nothing else happens. So we have inside of our cells these little organelles called mitochondria, and the mitochondria are very efficient. One glucose makes 38 energy molecules.
Right.
So fantastic. Now, but because oxygen's involved in that, 6 oxygens, 1 glucose are in the formula to produce those 38. Because there's oxygen in there, oxygen is a double-edged sword in that it breaks apart and produces what are called reactive oxygen species, which are free radicals. And so these mitochondria are therefore extremely vulnerable and easy to break down. So if you're living in the 21st century and you're surrounded by EMF and stress and all the other unhealthy foods, you're wearing clothes, like here's how many of us are eating organic and wearing non-organic underwear, or women using unorganic tampons?
Yes.
I mean, what? So anyway, we have to realize that it's everywhere. So anyway, our cells are surrounded by all this stuff, and the most vulnerable part is the mitochondria. So when a percentage of them get damaged, the cell the cell has a homeostatic need to survive, to adapt. So it starts to ferment and fermentation. And now that fermentation is inefficient. 1 glucose only becomes 2 energy molecules.
Right.
So that's 19 times less efficient. So it needs 19 times more fuel to produce the same energy. So that's called glucose. So it needs 19 times more glucose. So then what happens is all that signals the nucleus to turn on certain genes and turn off certain genes, so that you now change the entire metabolism of the cell to support a fermentative metabolism rather than an oxidation. So that's it. So all of the oncogenes that we think are driving the ship are not. They're just passengers. But anyway, they are there to support fermentation. So what do you have to do? Well, if you can restore mitochondrial function, then it's no longer, by definition, needs to ferment, is no longer cancer.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that's what you need to do. So, and you got to, what do you have to do? You have to remove all the potential toxins,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which is everything, meditation to colon hydrotherapy, everything, balance your hormones, all these relationships. If you're in a toxic relationship and you see that it cannot be healed right now, then you tell the person, I love you very much, but I'll see you in 2 years.
Yes.
I've got to live.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So if I'm still alive in 2 years, I will be alive in 2 years. And if you're still alive in 2 years, let's get together. See if there's anything. And if there's not, there's not. But anyway, you got to be that determined, and you have to understand how powerful relationships are.
Yes, for sure.
Right? And so all of that goes into stop making cancers, to changing the biochemistry. And of course, cleansing, exercise, going to sleep early, meditate, stop lying.
Yep. Interesting. Okay. And so what about, you talk about as well that the question is not how do I get rid of cancer, but rather how do I stop making cancer? I guess that kind of feeds into the same answer you just gave before. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, yes. The person that comes in, let's say with a breast lump. Yep. Or they had someone discovered a nodule on the prostate, or the pancreas has a lump mass, small mass. They're not, if it doesn't grow and it doesn't spread, the person will live a normal life.
Yes.
Okay. So the person is not really asking me, how do I get rid of this? They're asking me, how do I stop producing this? How do I stop making this?
Yeah.
That's the real, So don't get rid of it. Just don't make it anymore. Don't let it grow anymore.
Yeah.
And you'll live a normal life. It's like a pimple. You don't necessarily want it, but it's not going to kill you.
Yes. So how do you do that though?
Well, through lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Cleansing, doing colon hydrotherapy, and then when learning how to do enemas, lymphatic work, meditation, go to sleep early, and exercise all day long. That means movement all day long.
Yes.
So set a little alarm clock for every 90 minutes. Get up and spend 10 to 12 minutes in some vigorous type activity, and then get back down. That way, throughout the day, your body is moving, and you're much more approximating a natural life. Pre-machine.
Yeah, love that. So I know I'm simplifying it a little, but basically it goes back to the mitochondria, right? So cancer is... Yeah. So is there anything, why do we not have a cure for cancer then? Why do we not have something that can support the mitochondria to stop this fermentation happening?
Well, we do. What we need to do is restore mitochondrial numbers and function, and we can do that. We can do that with systemic hyperthermia or prolonged fever.
Right.
We can do that with, there are certain peptides that will do that, that will help restore mitochondrial function. Right. There are certain medications we can use, like DCA dichloroacetate, which blocks glycolysis, which is fermentation, and things that the pathway has to go into the mitochondria. So there are a lot of different things you can do, and getting and all the exercise and all that sort of thing will increase your oxygenation. So basically, you just need to restore mitochondrial function. So there are many, many ways to do it.
Yes,
and that's why we have such great successes, because that's what we're working on, the fundamental problem that results in a chronically fermenting cell.
Amazing. Love it. So what about, obviously, with all we've got lots of, we had the Cancer Society, I think it was, the anti-cancer, and a lot of fundraising that money goes into that. And I've always thought, where does this money go? Because it never really, the treatment protocols have stayed the same to my knowledge. What, over the years, nothing has seemed to really change. And obviously the truth remains that, cancer rates are somewhat the same, or if not worse than what they've ever been before. Why do you think this is the case? And where is that money going to research?
Right. Well, again, it's the disease paradigm. It's the military approach, where the doctor is the general, the tumor is the enemy, and they go to battle. And that battle, the battleground, is the human body, and the collateral damage is well-being and health. And so that's why it can't win. And they're only looking for more weapons.
Yes,
that's what they're looking for. They're not looking to restore health. People often comment that, well, doctors don't take. They only take a half a unit credit in nutrition in medical school. And that is not on real nutrition. It's hospital nutrition. Yes. But they take 0 credits, 0 learning on health. They don't know what health is. So if a doctor doesn't know what health is, how could they possibly
help.
How could they possibly assist you to restore health?
Yes,
they can't.
Exactly.
It's not even in the algorithm. It doesn't exist. So, and you're going to the person, and what you're really asking for. You might think you're asking to get rid of this or do this. You're really asking to be restored to health.
Yes.
And so that's what you need to do. You need to focus on that. So anyway, they just come up with new weapons, and now what they're calling immuno-oncology or oncoimmunology, again, is just targeted. It's a new name for a chemo.
Yes.
It's a chemo.
Interesting. I mean, prevention's better than cure, and we live by that. You live by that. That's where most of the education and awareness needs to be, I guess, with everybody across the board, doesn't it? In terms of, prevention. Right.
Well, and that would start with children, and you got to if you work on it. If we could teach children the truth, then the next generation it would grow, but it wouldn't have an effect now. But we haven't, the same they that started all this madness, that started all the wars, all of they are educating the children.
Yeah.
And
scary.
They've turned them into whatever. I don't know what people are nowadays, but they're cyborgs, basically cyborgs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Interesting. And so what about in terms of for yourself, what are the top 3 tips to living a longer, stronger, happier, healthier life?
If I had to come up with 3, number 1, go to bed early.
Yep.
Number 2, eat only real food and eat it infrequently, at the most twice a day within a 4-hour window.
Yes.
Okay. And meditate.
There you go.
But I can't leave out movement, exercise. So I'd have to say there's 4 in there.
Yep, awesome. So what about for yourself? I mean, obviously this is your line of work, so you see it all day long. Are you on a mission as well to live long and strong and try and prevent yourself from getting insidious disease? Obviously?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I'm right. It's not even a mission for me anymore, because it's sort of become the way I live.
Yes.
It's just kind of the way I am. So I don't even. It's not. I'm not doing it anymore. It's happening. So I mean, eating. I don't eat until I eat once a day for about 2 hours.
Yes.
And you got to stop eating 4 hours, 5 hours before sleep. You got to go to bed early. You got to move around all day. You've got to meditate. And if you're doing those things and attend to your bowels, it's like you attend to your mouth. Well, the other end of that tube, you've got to attend to also. So if that means if you're eating healthy food, if you're eating human food, it's going to be full of fiber, and you're going to have several bowel movements a day. But even if you don't, so if you consider your colon is 1.5 meters, so if you're not seeing 1.5 meters of waste leaving your body during a day, then you're not not cleaning up.
Yeah.
So you need to assist that. So you do you learn how to do enemas and other things like that. So people do dental hygiene, right, which involves flossing their teeth, right? So what I think is medical hygiene is flossing the other end with an enema.
Interesting. Yeah. What about the colonic hydrotherapy and how, I've heard different things. I mean, I've had it done over the years as well. But what about in terms of the flora, the flora and upsetting the flora in the gut, in the colon?
Well, that's impossible with a colonic. You have, I think, at least 200 trillion bacteria.
Okay.
So you're not going to, you're going to clean them. And by the way, a good proportion of the mass of feces, of what feces actually is sloughed off dead cells in the colon.
Yes.
And microorganisms, dead microorganisms. So you're continually eliminating them. Remember, they have a new generation every hour.
Okay.
And if you still have an appendix, then that's kind of the nursery. That's where they hang out and live. So they always are restoring the microflora in that. And remember, the microflora, in order to live, just like if you had a pet dog, you'd have to give it food that dogs eat. If you had a pet rabbit, you'd have to give it food that rabbits eat.
Yes.
If you gave the rabbit dog food, the rabbit would die.
Yes.
Okay. If you gave the dog rabbit food, the dog would die.
Yes.
So the point is, same with the gut. So if you're eating human food, which is plants, nuts, seeds, plants, and fruit, of course, if you're eating that, then your body, your intestines will be filled with the substances that healthy microorganisms will survive in.
Yes.
And you don't have to take probiotics. I mean, you can eat fermented foods and stuff like that, or you can take probiotics if you're really if you've had antibiotics or something. But
yes,
don't worry about it. Just make sure that you put the food there. You put the food there and they'll show up.
Amazing. It's awesome. So tell us how people can find out more about you and what you offer. And I know you offer online courses as well, don't you?
Yes. And I have consultations with people, a lot of people with cancer. And, let's say they're for a long time, people in Australia couldn't travel.
Yes.
So I would do, I have a Stop Making Cancer video series that they can get. And my website, drlodi.com. But there's that. And then, but I would, and then I work with the person, in their home, how they can take care of it in their home. And if they have any doctors that they can work with that are near to them, that are willing to collaborate with me, I'll be happy to do that. Or sometimes it's better if you can't find a doctor, if you can get a friend as a nurse, befriend a nurse and have her come in, and I can teach her how to mix up some of these IVs and all that sort of thing. And so we can come up with a home program. So that's what I do. And
Amazing.
Then, as you know, it's 7:00 a.m. every Monday morning Thailand time.
Okay.
Which is 8 p.m. I think Eastern Standard Time. In Australia, what time would that be? 11 a.m. every Monday morning. I have a live stream on Instagram and Facebook, and I answer questions people have, about usually about cancer, but it includes other things as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you can find me. You can find me there. You can find me on at my website, drlodi.com, and that's it. And my goal is that you'll never need another doctor the rest of your life. That's my goal.
That's amazing. I'm in awe of you, and I'm loving the work that you're doing. And it's just, it's so incredible. And like I said earlier, refreshing to meet an MD who is so open-minded and has spent his life committed to finding ways to actually help people restore their health. It's so rare to find. And I think it would be amazing, even if you wrote a book, it would be fantastic to get our hands on that. Or even if you came to Australia and did some workshops or something like that and, made yourself more available to people here. Because I feel like just in my circle alone, people are they don't know which way to turn. And when they feel that there's not enough support to go that path of, I guess, natural, if you like, it's they don't know who to lean on. So, the work that you're doing is invaluable. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'd love to go to Australia, but I'm afraid I'd have to be genetically modified, right, to show up there.
I know, and likewise, I'd have to be modified to come to you. But I mean, thank goodness for internet and telephone and your lives and so forth. I'm sure people can still reach out to you that way. So that's good.
Yeah. I've got a lady that worked with me for a few years. She's from Melbourne. She returned to Melbourne, and she's there now. I think she's teaching yoga, and she works with people with nutrition, and she's been a great resource for people so that, if they want to know where to find, certain things or things like that. So,
okay.
So I'm in touch with a lot of Australians, and, but the best thing is if someone has a condition like cancer, especially cancer,
yes.
Or a relative, just go to my website and book a consultation. And there's no timing to it. It says 60 minutes, but I don't think I've ever been able to finish in 60 minutes because I don't finish until we're done.
Yes.
It's usually an hour and a half. An hour and a half, because there's a lot to talk about, especially when I've read the medical reports and I've looked at the PET scans and the CAT scans, and there's a lot about. And then each person has their own different, weaknesses and condition, and that we have to deal with. So
work with, exactly. Well, you're amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and your time and the work that you do. So, thank you, Dr. Lodi. We will, we'll spread the word far and wide, and hopefully, we'll be in touch with you again soon. I'd love to do another podcast with you down the track.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and follow me on our YouTube channel, One Body, One Life, to see more inspirational videos to help you reach optimal wellness and longevity. But until next time, don't forget, you've got to nourish to flourish.